Hey there, I'm Steve, and welcome to JamsinEntertainment. And welcome to the conversation. Just before we get started, there are many ways you can help. You can like and subscribe so you never miss it. Just before we get started, there are many ways you can help, so like and subscribe so you never miss the conversation. But most importantly, please share this content. Get the word out there as a community. We can talk about all things that we love. Today on the podcast, I am joined by my guest, Zach Goins. I found him on YouTube trying to learn how to play Mothership. And his YouTube channel is World of Game Design. How's it going, Zach?
It's going well. Thanks for having me on.
So, let's go all the way back. Where did your love for tabletop gaming, or just gaming in general, start?
Yeah, let's see. I was a late bloomer. I came on to tabletop in college. I was working at a college while I went to school there, and one of the professors invited me to come play in his, what he called a Pathfinder game. I had no idea what was going on. And I went to his house, and it was a group of him and several other faculty and staff members, and they were playing this weird game with pens and paper and all sorts of weird dice, and I had no clue. I sat there and watched and was fascinated, and he said, "We'll come back and play next week if you want to with us, like build a character and come back." It gave me the massive Pathfinder SRD website that has like 40 races and 80,000 classes, and he's like, "Go build a character and come back and play." And that's where it all started. I was instantly hooked.
Did you get help building a character? Because
No, not
really?
in the least.
Wow.
Yeah, it was. I was so lost for so long, but
they really tossed
okay.
you to the wolves.
But that was perfect for me. I liked all that crunch and stuff, and so it took forever. And Pathfinder isn't necessarily intuitive on its own, but then going to an SRD website, which is not built to instruct you how to make a character, made it even worse. But it was perfect. I had a blast. Yeah.
Nice. You're into other gaming, like video games, card games?
Yeah, I was into video games for a long time. I'm not as much anymore, simply just because like tabletop has devoured my life. But that's kind of my other access into gaming for sure.
Yeah, I'm kind of similar. I had a group of friends. I was like a huge gamer, and then this group of friends were like strictly tabletop, and I just stopped gaming. Well, video gaming anyway. It's only because of COVID that I got back into it. It was like, well,
yeah,
what else am I gonna do?
Yeah. I think the games that got me sucked in there at the end. I played a ton of. Well, everybody played a ton of Overwatch, but I played like hours and hours every day of PUBG and Valheim. Back in the early days of PUBG and the somewhat early days of Valheim. So, yeah.
How'd you get to started on YouTube?
Oh goodness. Well, I think I just decided I was going to do it. So we have, you mentioned at the beginning, our show, our channel is called World of Game Design. So I run a game publishing company called World of Game Design. It's a smaller company. We do a bunch of different TTRPG games. Yeah. And we make games for a bunch of different systems, and I also record a podcast of my own called Geeks Can't with some of my friends in that space. And I found that I love playing a lot of games. My goal for last year was to learn and play and run a dozen new systems, and I just kept finding that it was hard to find great instructional videos, not reviews, not playthroughs, but just instructional videos for these new RPGs. And so I said, well, if that's what I'm asking for, maybe there's people that are asking for it as well. And so that's kind of where it started. I just started recording videos and putting them up and hoping that they were useful to other people like me.
Nice. Yeah, I mean, I definitely ran into that when I was looking up how to play Mothership. I was also looking up how to play Kobolds Ate My Baby.
Oh, yeah.
There is nothing on that except for gameplay, which, yeah, I could probably figure out how they do it through gameplay, but a video like yours would have been way more helpful.
Yeah. I can learn by reading a rule book, but I learn a lot faster if I could just watch somebody else play or watch somebody teach me.
Yeah, I'm the same way. The only problem is after I watch your video, I didn't think to I don't have a printer at home, but I could at work. But I didn't think to send the PDFs through my email to print them out at work. So didn't get to play Mothership after I learned it. But it was a general game night, so I brought other games that we enjoyed.
Good.
Yeah. So, which one did you start out with? What was your first video?
The first video I did was for a game called Morkborg. I don't know if you're familiar with it or not. But,
no, so I don't really branch out that much. I mean, I got introduced to Mothership from a friend, but I'm more like a D&D purist. But I'm interested. But I'm willing to play other systems.
Good. Well, you're exactly where I was just not that long ago. And so, Morkborg was the first video I made because if you've seen that book, it's this big yellow, I say big, it's this yellow book with a skeleton on the front. And I bought it because it looked awesome. And when I sat down to read it, I just couldn't parse it. Every page is like a piece of art. But what that ends up meaning is that, it's very hard to navigate, very hard to understand what the heck is going on, because it's not about communicating the game, it's about showing you something amazing. And I read through that book, I was like, I don't understand what's going on here. Put it on the shelf, didn't look at it for another year. And then I finally gave it a second chance after talking to a friend of mine about it, and it finally clicked with me. I'm like, oh my gosh, that was way harder than it had to be, because it's a very simple system. If that's me, that's got to be the rest of, that's got to be a huge chunk of their community, or people that couldn't parse it. And we just talked about, I could learn Pathfinder just by looking at the SRD. I don't feel like I'm stupid. But so I took the time and did that video, and immediately, at least in my world, the first video that I did in the first week, I think it had 6,000 views and a lot of nice comments, people saying, oh, thanks, we really needed this. And that was exactly what I wanted or needed, or to feel good about what I was doing and make something to keep going, because it was helpful.
Oh. And then, no, sir, go ahead.
I was going to say, and then just from there, I'm like, all right, well, what other systems do I struggle with, or what other systems do I want to make sure get in front of people, right? So every system since then has been about what am I playing that I want other people to play, or what other systems do I want to learn, and can I help other people learn along with me? So we did, after Morkborg, we did Dune, Adventures in the Imperium, which is the Dune RPG. Then I did an indie RPG called Dead Halt, which is awesome. Really, really simple. And then Alien the RPG, Monster of the Week, Toon Punk, One Ring, all the way down. Yeah, I think we've done about a dozen now.
So, I looked through some of your content, and I did come across Dune the Imperium. Is that the original one?
No. Yeah, this is the new one. And this one came out just a couple of years ago, put out by a company called Modifius.
Yeah, I only first heard of it. Are you familiar with the content creator Matt Colville?
Oh yeah, yeah. He's patron saint.
I don't follow him anymore, mostly because I don't know. I used him to learn how to be a better DM, and I was like, I got what I needed, and I just kind of moved on. But he did talk about Dune and how he worked on that game. It's expensive if you want to get it.
Yeah, exactly. No, I looked. I was right in that same boat as you. I watched Colville for a long time, and I was like, I'd love to get this game. And it's probably not worth it at today's rates.
Yeah, I was able to look through some of the rules on that. I was like, what the hell? Because it really tries to go into the feudal system and the whole this is your family and where you are in the hierarchy. And it's crazy.
The new game is also like that. What it it's really fun in that you when you sit down to create your party with your characters, you are all members of the same house. And actually, before you each make your characters, you work together with the game master to build your house on Dune, your feudal house, if you want to use that. And that is really interesting. And building your house together and building like some of the other NPCs that you're going to be tied to, and your house's motivations and its enemy and things like that. Is a really great way of then when you go make your own characters, you all kind of have the same point of connection.
It sounds like the most involved tabletop I've ever heard of.
It's complex, yeah. I really liked it, but it's not going to be for everybody. It's really, I think, for people who love Dune, like love the movies, love the books. You're going to have a great time with the RPG. If you don't love the movie, if you don't love the books, you're going to just say, why am I doing this?
That's like Dune, period. You either get into it or you don't.
That's exactly right, yeah.
Tell me about your podcast.
Yeah, okay, so I do a podcast called Geeks Cant. That's Geeks Cant, C-A-N-T, Secret Language of the Geeks. We've done a podcast now on that for, oh goodness, we started podcasting, I think it was about 6 years ago, but this current iteration has been going for several years, 3 years, I think. And it's basically just me and a couple of my Yahoo Game Master friends. We sit down and at a table and talk about a different topic for about an hour, once or twice a week. And then the second half of the show is we talk about Kickstarters, because we all three are obsessed with the Kickstarter community and the games that come out of there.
Have you ever done a Kickstarter?
I did my first one a few years ago, and I think I've done a lot since then. I think personally I've done about, I'd say 20 or so since then.
Wow. What are some... What are the ones... Oh, okay, what was the first one, and then what are some of the more popular or more profitable ones that you did?
Sure. The first one was a supplement for D&D for 5th edition called Oceanic Depths. Yeah. Oceanic Depths came out. We did it because of Saltmarsh. When Saltmarsh was announced, one of the things that they pitched about it was that it's really going to give you all the seafaring adventuring, and we thought that would be really cool. And then the book came out, and it's really an island hopper of a book. It's not as much about being on the open sea as it is going from island to island. And the adventures all take place largely on an island, not on the sea. And so we said, well, I think there's an opening for a cool book about actually seafaring adventures and things that take place on the ocean, underneath the waves, in the depths of the ocean, things like that. And so we made this book, and I was still already at that point obsessed with Kickstarter. And so I kind of knew, I never had done one, but I kind of knew what they should look like and what they should be like. And I was I felt comfortable enough, getting pricing for things and knowing how much it would cost to print a book and all that. And so we wrote it. My wife is an English teacher, an English professor, and so she was our editor, and we worked with a few artists, and we raised about $6,000 on that first one, which is enough to make the book. And not long after that, I quit my day job and said, I think I could do this full time.
Oh, wow.
That's what I've been doing. So, yeah, I do.
Did you work with Wizards of the Coast on it?
That was just me and using the third party license that they have.
Oh, okay.
Just me and my friends. So since then we've done a ton of 5th edition like D&D stuff, but yes, like what are our most profitable, or what was what's big that we might have mucked with. Let's see, probably the biggest one was I worked as a consultant, a Kickstarter consultant with Modifius, who make the Dune RPG. But they did a Kickstarter last year, a crowdfunding for Skyrim, the board game, and it's this huge, big box. Think like Gloomhaven or something like that. These big box board games, and that take years and years to play. and they did a Skyrim version that's amazing, and that did $1.3 million. So
wow,
that's probably the biggest one I've gotten to have my hands in.
wow.
That's not, and to be fair, that's not the that's not the norm, right? Most of the projects that we do are like, they raise somewhere between, most of the projects raise like between $5,000 and $50,000 is kind of the sweet spot right now for us.
Huh. So, how do you get involved in all of this? How did you grow? Because I've been on YouTube for, well, not for constantly making content. I've been on YouTube for almost 3 years, but collectively it's been like 6. And I know I'm in a very, very saturated market because I'm review movies mostly, like anyone and their mother does that. But how did? Well, you said you started with like, well, I need to know. I don't know how to play this game, so I guess other people don't. But with the Kickstarter and stuff, how'd you get into that? Is it like I wanted to do this?
There's some of that. One of the things, so we had actually, we had started our podcast before we did the first Kickstarter, and it was just me and my brother-in-law talking, and we didn't have much of a following at all. Like, we were just kind of doing it just because we wanted to, I guess. And it was fun. It was a D&D podcast back then, too. And then, for some reason, I'm trying to remember why or how, but for some reason, somebody invited us to come run games at a convention. He said, "Hey, you do this D&D podcast. Why don't you come run some D&D at our convention with us?" And we had no idea what we were getting into. Neither of us had ever been to a gaming convention before. I think maybe we had been to a PAX, but nothing to like dedicated to tabletop at that point. And so we're like, yeah, sure. They're like, well, it's called Gen Con, and you can come run games with us. And we didn't know. So we showed up to Gen Con, and Gen Con is this massive convention for, I think that was in like 2018. So there was like 60,000 nerds there, right? All playing board games and tabletop games and card games. And we ran D&D all weekend long, like 3-4 hour slots a day or something like that. For the full 4 days, and it was amazing. We had so much fun, it was not long after that we're like, we want to make a book, and I think it was really just about like, we'll keep going to a big place like Gen Con and seeing 600 vendors, everybody's making a book, everybody's making a game, and say like, oh, okay, well there's all sizes of people and companies here, right? Like, it's not just Wizards of the Coast,
right?
It's there's people that we could emulate, that we could replicate. And so we kind of got the itch, I think, from those early experiences. And then, I'm already obsessed with Kickstarter at that point. I love the platform. I love fundraising, crowdfunding. And so then it's just, the question is, can I make a campaign page that looks like these other campaign pages that I see? And I'm like, well, I can't do it like the big dogs, but I can do it like, some of these other people that are having some measure of success. And so, it's about being careful with the budget, and, we were really careful in that respect. I think, we raised $6,000. We needed about $4,500 to make this book, to do the print run and everything. And so, we raised enough to where we didn't make anything. We paid our artists, paid our guest writers, printed the books, shipped them out, but we printed extras, and so I got to sell those, and it kind of went from there. So I guess that's kind of the start, but really it just came down to, like, I think the great thing for me was going to those conventions, seeing what was possible, but also just connecting with a million people, and like finding peers, finding people who wanted to write, finding people who wanted to do art, chatting with people who had already been successful in this industry, and asking, like, how did you do it? Like, how did you pitch, or things like that. And just really, 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 like, the best way forward for us was getting connected with people who were already successful in the industry, becoming genuine friends with them, and then as luck would have it, then when you do something, those friends come support you and have your back, and they promote your stuff and help you and give you advice, and it's a whole lot easier when you have those people. I'd say for sure.
That's awesome. Do you go to conventions regularly now as a vendor and a guest?
Yeah, some of both. Obviously, COVID shut down a lot of conventions for a while, but before COVID and now in the last couple of years, 2021 and 2022, in 2022, I think I went to 8 or 9 conventions across the states. Gen Con in Indianapolis, Origins in Ohio, and then places like Gamehole Con and Gary Con and Winter Fantasy and PAX Unplugged, and I don't know. Like there's there's several cons. I live here in Kansas City, so there's a couple great cons we have here. Cant Con and Midwest Game Fest are great too.
What about outside of gaming conventions?
Really, the main one that I went to for a long time, convention-wise, was PAX South. Every year that PAX South was a thing down in Texas, which is a big video game convention, I went down and did PAX South, and they canceled for COVID, and then they announced afterwards that they weren't going to start it back up. But that had about 10 to 15,000 people at it every year, and it was really, really fun.
You ever get into cosplay or anything like that?
That's a good question. I am being coerced a little bit, but I have not yet taken the plunge. No, that's like one step further into nerddom, and I'm not opposed to it. It's just the step that I haven't taken yet.
So what would your first cosplay be then?
Oh my gosh, that's a terrifying question. You would, like I'm not a. Somebody's going to argue with this, but I don't see myself as a very goofy person or a very extravagant person. It would probably be something that was just, on the edge of being cosplay. Like a Han Solo cosplay would be great. And I'd probably have to shave my beard if I did a Han Solo cosplay, but just like, that would be my ideal entry point, where I'm still wearing a shirt and pants. that would be the win.
What do you got planned on the future? Because I messaged you the other day, you said you're working on projects. What projects?
Yeah. So let's see. I'll give you projects in several different areas. So on YouTube, we just did the how to play video for the Vampire game, Vampire the Masquerade version 5. But we're working on right now the next YouTube video in the How to Play series is going to be for a game called Zweihander, which is a medieval fantasy gothic horror RPG. So it's going to be a lot of fun. I got to play it a few times, and really excited to get to do a video on that. On the convention side, I'm going to a con in a couple weeks called Winter Fantasy in Fort Wayne, Indiana, and I'm going to run the Alien RPG. I'm going to run some D&D, and I'm going to play a whole bunch of different systems. And then on the Kickstarter side, right now I'm helping one of my clients with their game called Realms of Elgrune. Elgrune spelled ELGHRUNE. It's a very rules light, simple game. This is a box set that they're funding, and the cool thing, what attracted me to this project, the art. The art is amazing. It's exactly the sort of thing that I love. And then the other thing is that they have this crazy pitch of you play on a dungeon planet. Like the whole planet is built around dungeons with different themes and genres, and you're just a surface dweller trying to keep all the weird things down in the dungeons from, pushing out into the surface. And there's it's kind of a mixed genre, like science fantasy twist of, sometimes you'll be fighting goblins, and you could always fight fantasy things like goblins and hobgoblins and things, and that would be okay. But there's also things like weird aliens and cybernetic dinosaurs and like bizarre shit just tucked down there into the bowels of this planet. It's really cool.
That does sound amazing. I'd like to try that out.
Yeah, absolutely. You can, if you go to the Kickstarter right now, and I think it's going for a few more weeks still, several more weeks, but as of this recording. But you can download the rule set that they put all of Chapter 2 of their book on there, so you can kind of read what the rules are like. And then their product is going to be a rule book, a player's handbook, a dungeon master's guide, kind of, and then a small book full of sample adventures. So there's a lot of stuff there.
Oh, nice. Will it also come with dice or no?
So I can neither confirm nor deny that dice are in the cards as a potential stretch goal. Kind of the selling point of it is that there is that you only have to have one die to play. Like, it's just a single die sort of a game. It's very super.
Huh.
But yeah, we hope that it reaches certain levels and we can give everybody a custom die to go along with their game.
Yeah, that'd be really cool.
Yeah.
Do you have any Kickstarters going on, or are you just helping this one out?
So we've got a couple others that I'm attached to as a team member. One's called A Very First Heist, which is a 5e Kickstarter. It's just for a low-level heist adventure. And I kind of help steer that one through. The one that I'm really, truly a part of, though, is live right now. It's ran through my friend who's also named Zach, but he does a line of product called Grim Weird Tales. Grim Weird spelled Grym, Weird spelled WYRD, so 2 Y's in Grim Weird. But it's this horror anthology of 5e adventures, and he recruited me to write the third in that volume. So there's an adventure in there called Temptation, which is gothic horror for 5e, and it involves a succubus and some imps and a really weird church. So
nice.
All right.
What's some of the funniest, weirdest, blew your mind moments at running any game?
Oh my gosh. Well, okay, so my favorite RPG, and the one that I think delivers exactly what you're talking about over and over again, is the Alien RPG. Because the Alien RPG is built to be cinematic. It's built to, you play as members of a ship or crew or whatever, and it's alien, right? There's gonna be an xenomorph at some point, right? And so it's about building tension, building stress until you get to that climactic final scene, right, where the xenomorph makes itself fully manifest and attack your party. And then who survives, who doesn't? Can you kill this thing? Is it, does it escape? Like, that's kind of the big question. And so there's a lot of cool mechanics that come into play at that final moment. But one of my favorite ones is, I was running a game of it for a group of my buddies, and in that game they have a panic system. So the idea is that you build up points of stress, and if you get enough points of stress, then in certain moments you can start to panic, and you have to make a panic save. And if you fail your panic save, you lose control of your character for a brief moment, and the DM rolls on the table to see what you do while you're panicking.
Whoa.
And you can do things like just freeze. You can do things like just start firing your gun. You can run. You can cower. Like, all sorts of different things that might happen. You can go kind of nuts. So in this one game, it was just this.
Sorry, just one moment. So the mechanic has the flight or freeze, but it doesn't have a fight option.
There is a fight option. Yeah,
okay.
Like it's all just the table, right? And
okay.
Which option you end up rolling on, and everything is table based in that game, and I really like that. And so what happened at the end of this particular thing was like people were panicking. You know, they're unloading shotguns, they're unloading handguns. The xenomorph is like whipping its its piercer tail around, and like it's impaling through somebody's helmet into their eye. You know, that's actually a thing that you can roll on the table. Is that this guy was at full health, perfectly fine, and he got hit by the xenomorph. The xenomorph pierced his helmet, pierced into his eye. He rolled on the table. You're dead. So okay, that guy went from hero to zero in one roll. He's dead. And then another person was panicking. Another guy got knocked on the ground. The xenomorph's tearing into him. And then the guy who was standing up shooting a shotgun couldn't pierce through the alien. It was just this raucous, crazy time. And it culminated with the captain of the ship had this big Magnum revolver and was trying to kill his alien. She rolled had to roll another panic save and failed. And so when she rolled on the table, it says that you turn on your nearest companion, like kind of putting them out of their misery, or like some sort. You can interpret it how you want. And so this guy who had been making save after save and barely hanging on as the xenomorph was tearing into him, and like it was so much fun. He was getting ripped apart, but managing to stay alive for round after round with the xenomorph on top of him. The gal fails her save, turns and levels her pistol at the guy as the xenomorph on top of him. It kills him with her handgun. And like, because it was all random, and because we were in it together, experiencing it, and it wasn't me telling them that they had to do it. It wasn't them deciding to do it. It was the tables communicating the story. We just had just an absolute blast. We were all just dying laughing during this very intense, crazy moment. So, yeah, Alien RPG is amazing. You should definitely check it out.
I definitely will now. It sounds like a variation of Mothership.
Yeah, so that's a good point. So Mothership actually kind of came about because, as I understand it, because the creator, Sean McCoy, wanted to do the Alien, but couldn't get the license. And so he kind of did Mothership as his homage to the Alien creators. And Mothership's an amazing game. It's fantastic. So it actually came first. Mothership is the first one. And then another company called Free League did the Alien RPG, and I think they were definitely, it feels like at least that they were definitely inspired by Mothership to make their own. And you get a lot of that same feel. You can, like, Mothership RPG creates very, very similar moments, which is really great.
All right. Well, thanks for coming on.
Yeah, absolutely.
And which convention are you going to again, so fans can come out and meet you?
Heck yeah. So in February, I'm going to be at Winter Fantasy in Fort Wayne, Indiana. In March, I'm going to be at GaryCon in oh my goodness, where is GaryCon? It's in Michigan. So.
All right, cool. And where can people find you other than YouTube?
Yep. So you can go find us at World Game Design on Facebook. You can also friend request me if you want at Zach Goins on Facebook. Zach spelled with just a C. Goins spelled Goins. And World of Game Design on Facebook. We let's see. Do I have anything else that really matters? You could go to our store, our website /store, which is just store.wogd.com, and see all the projects that we work on.
All right. Nice. Thanks for coming on, man. This was awesome.
Thanks for having me. This has been a blast.
All right. And thank you for watching and or listening, and live your imagination.